Today I'd like to talk to you about pranayama, the yoga of breath, one of the 8 limbs of yoga. Most people identify the yoga postures as yoga, but the fact is there are 8 aspects of yoga practice. We're not going to get into all of those today, but we are going to focus a little bit on pranayama, the yoga of breath. I'm going to be instructing 3 different types of breathwork patterns today. The most commonly used ones: the complete breath, also known as 3-part yogic breath; the Ujjayi Breath, also known as the ocean sounding breath; and lastly, we'll be working on an alternate nostril breath, which goes by several names in yoga, from Anulom Vilom to Nadi Shuddhi, but we'll just call it alternate nostril breathing today for simplicity. So if you're reading my Yoga for Writers book, this video will support the breathwork chapter, where I reference in there that you can get more breathwork instruction on my YouTube channel. If you're not an equestrian, that is perfectly okay, as these breathwork patterns are used in all of yoga, and some can be used in daily life as well as in your meditation practice. So some of the very basic advantages of breathwork are: it's calming and refining to the nervous system. Breathwork energizes and oxygenates our entire system. Breathwork can induce meditation. Breathwork can help to focus the busy, scattered mind. So breathwork can be used in a variety of ways. It can be used in and of itself as a deliberate breathwork practice, where perhaps you sit down on your yoga mat or your meditation cushion and you enter into specific breathing patterns for specific amounts of time. That would be creating your personal pranayama or personal breathwork practice. Breathwork can and should be used in the yoga postures, the asanas as they're called. By infusing the asanas with breath, we can stretch deeper, we can release more tensions and toxins from the body. Again, we can give the mind a focal point if it starts wandering in the middle of our postures practice. So the breath can give us holding power too, to hold the poses deeper and longer. So in traditional, true, authentic yoga, breathwork is infused into the postures. And lastly is some of these breathwork patterns can be used literally anywhere. Driving your car, before going to sleep at night, standing on line at the grocery store. And for my equestrian friends, I invite you to infuse your horsemanship from ground to saddle with breathwork. So we're going to start today with the complete breath or 3-part yogic breath. Seems very simple, but sometimes people have trouble with this, as we often habitually become shallow breathers. So in 3-part yogic breath, I'd like you to think about having 3 separate vessels or chambers, the belly being 1, the rib cage area being 2, and the upper chest being 3. And with each breath, we're going to be filling those areas. So we're going to start by breathing in through the nostrils and expanding the abdomen, the belly. That same breath moves up and expands the ribs. And that same breath lastly moves up, lifting the upper chest. And then we deflate in the reverse order. Chest, ribs contract, and belly pulls inward upon the final exhalation. So it should be one smooth breath. So I'd like you to try to watch it once, and we're breathing in and out through the nostrils. And I'll point to the areas that are expanding and contracting. So the breath begins in the belly. It's really beginning in the lungs, but the lower lobes of the lungs fill first. And then as the breath moves, the ribs and the chest also begin to expand. So think about filling a bottle of water under a faucet. It would fill from the bottom up. So that's what we're doing with the lungs, is filling them from the bottom up, and then we're exhaling in the reverse order. Again, watch and join in if you'd like. I'll be pointing to the areas that are expanding and contracting with the breath. So in this breath, you're using your entire lung space. Again, we often habitually become shallow breathers, just perhaps breathing into our chest, or just belly breathers. But this breath allows you to breathe into the entire lung space, taking in additional energy and oxygen. Again, it's called the complete breath. Some people call it three-part yogic breath. A good way to learn this breath is to kind of break it up into the areas so you can actually feel each chamber or vessel filling. So fill the belly, and then the ribs, and then the chest, and then deflate. Then once you get the hang of it, you want to smooth it out. Belly, ribs, and chest. Expanding and contracting on the exhale. Remember to pull the belly inward at the end of the exhale. This squeezes out any remaining or stale air from the lungs and makes space and room for the next breath. So this breath can be used obviously anywhere in a sitting meditation practice, or just anytime you're feeling any kind of stress or anxiety. It's very calming, soothing, and again, if you're an equestrian, this breath can easily be infused into your riding, or just anytime you're around horses, especially anytime that you're feeling any nerves, fear, anxiety come up. There's a direct link between breath and emotions. When we become fearful, angry, anxious, stressed, our breath pattern tends to change to a short, shallow rhythm. So using just this three-part yogic breath, we can learn to help offset some of those negative emotions. So again, let's try it together for a few moments, breathing fully and deeply. Perhaps close your eyes and focus on the breath. Focus on each of those areas, belly, ribs, and chest, expanding in that order on the inhale through the nostrils. And on the exhale, feel the chest slightly collapse, the ribs contract, and the belly pull slightly inward as you squeeze out the remaining air, making room for your next breath. Let your mind focus on the breath, and anytime the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. Try to keep these breaths slow, steady, deep, and uniformed, not forced, but full. So that's the basic three-part yogic breath. And when you open your eyes from breathing in that way, just even for a few breaths, you perhaps may feel a positive, calming shift. Pranayama works very quickly on the nervous system and on the mind. Next, we're going to talk about Ujjayi Breath, also known as the ocean-sounding breath. So very similar to the three-part yogic breath. You may want to master that one first and then move on to the Ujjayi breathing. So I'm going to try to over-exaggerate it. I'm going to grab my mic here to see if that will help. And in this breath, you're creating a sound, the sound of the ocean. So to do that, we are actually contracting the muscles at the back of the throat. So I want you to think about what muscles you would use to fog a mirror. Perhaps your hand is a mirror, and you're going to fog that mirror, and you would go, Then I want you to imagine you have a mirror at the back of your throat, and you're going to fog that mirror, and you would go, Front mirror, back mirror, front mirror. So you're hearing that sound that goes along with the breath. So for Ujjayi breathing though, we're doing it with the mouth closed. So same sound as though you're fogging a mirror. Some say it sounds kind of like a Darth Vader breath. But you're using the 3-part yogic breath. You're expanding the belly, ribs, and chest with each breath, but now you're adding this sound. It is very soothing and can induce calm and relaxation and also induce meditative states. I've actually taught entire yoga classes where I have had the participants infuse every posture with not just 3-part breathing, but the Ujjayi breath as well. And the effects are profound and pronounced. You can go deeper inward. You're more focused. Body's moving more energy, releasing more tensions and tightness and toxins. So let's try Ujjayi breathing together. So first, do the mirror, fake mirror. Fog it. Now the one at the back of the throat, mouth opened. Fog it. Now with mouth closed. One at the back. Mind resting on the ocean sounding breath, very soothing. Belly, ribs, and chest expanding and contracting with each breath. And then open your eyes. And notice if you feel any shift after breathing in this way, even for just a few rounds. So for my friends who are following my Yoga for Riders book, this is a really interesting breath to do on horseback. Of course, it's recommended to ride with a buddy, but when I ride by myself on occasion, or even with some friends where we can practice being quiet, I infuse my riding with Ujjayi breathing. And I always enjoy seeing my horse's reaction to this as well. Lots of times he'll flick his ears back and listen to the Ujjayi sound that I'm making. I'm sure he feels the calming effects that are going on within me, which make me a calmer, more centered, present rider. And when you relax, your horse relaxes. But I think that my horse actually likes the Ujjayi sound because I notice him relaxing also. So perhaps try that if you're an equestrian, of breathing the Ujjayi breath when you're on horseback. And again, 3-part yogic breath. The first one we did, or the complete breath rather, is easy to do on horseback and also has the same calming effects. So that's the 2 breaths, the Ujjayi breath, which we just did, the ocean sounding, and the first one was the complete breath, also known as 3-part yogic breath. This next one you wouldn't do online at the grocery store or even on the back of your horse because it's going to involve your hands. So it's alternate nostril breathing. I'm going to set my mic back because I need to free up my hands. So in alternate nostril breathing, we are using the right hand and we are creating a mudra. Mudras are symbols in yoga. This one is called Deer Mudra or Vishnu Mudra. You're folding your fingers, your 2 fingers in, your pointer and your middle finger, and you're going to be using your thumb and the ring finger of your right hand to be closing off the various nostrils. So that again is called Deer Mudra. We use the right hand. It is a symbol of receiving. We are receiving calm, focus, relaxation through breath work, through pranayama. So the alternate nostril breath has a very balancing effect to the right and left hemispheres of the brain. This is a really nice breath to do anytime you feel like you need some keen focus. Again, for my equestrian friends, perhaps before an event or a show where you really need to be focused, or anywhere else in your life really that you just feel like you need some balance and some focus. It is a very calming breath. It also helps induce meditative states, so really nice breath to use before entering a meditation practice. The holding aspect or portion of this breath actually locks in prana, which is life force energy, to various nerve channels in the body. So there is a breath retention portion of this. If something doesn't feel right to you, please omit it, alter it to suit your needs. That goes for anything, whether it's your yoga practice or your breathwork practice. So we're going to create the Deer Mudra with the right hand using the thumb and the ring finger. And we're going to close off the right nostril with the right thumb, and we're going to inhale in the left. Then we're going to pinch off both using the thumb and the ring finger. Hold the breath briefly. And then remove that thumb and exhale out the right nostril. So again, now we're going to inhale right. Pinch off both. Exhale out the left, removing the ring finger. So be intuitive about the holding, the retention part of the breath. Some people like to use numbers. The exhalation should be twice as long as the inhalation. So if you like to use a number, perhaps start with 2, 8, 4. You're inhaling for 2, holding for 8, and exhaling for 4. Or you can again just be intuitive about the retention part of it and just be sure your exhale is about twice as long as the inhale. So no need to get real technical, but that's just kind of a baseline to use. So we're going to do this together. Deer Mudra, close off the right nostril with the right thumb, inhale left, pinch off both, exhale out the right, inhale right, pinch off both, exhale out the left. Go at your own pace. Keep going. Once you get the hang of it, close the eyes and solely focus the mind on the breath, on alternate nostril breathing. Feeling yourself becoming balanced and centered. When you're done, slowly allow the eyes to open and take some inner inventory and notice how you're feeling. So again, the shifts are usually quite quick with breath work. So those are 3 basic breaths that you can work with. And I do recommend working with them deliberately until you feel like you really have the hang of them, especially that first one, the complete breath. You want it to just become kind of your natural way of breathing, or anytime you feel stress or anxiety that you automatically shift into that breathing pattern. So I would say sit down on your yoga mat or your chair, your meditation cushion, and perhaps practice the 3-part yogic breath, a complete breath. Maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever feels good. And then maybe in the same day or even the next session, add on 5 or 10 minutes of the Ujjayi breathing. And then perhaps work with the alternate nostril breath. So you can use these together in a sequence or a series, or you can just pick one to work with, depending on what you're feeling like you need. So if you just have limited time and you're just entering into a few yoga postures, I'd say go with a complete breath. If you're wanting to do a longer practice, maybe incorporate all 3. So that is just some ways to use your breathing in the yoga postures in your daily life, and for my horsey friends, in your horsemanship. So I hope you have found this video helpful, and keep practicing, keep breathing, and namaste and happy trails.